Well, welcome, Annika, in the Bierumer School. You worked here for a month. You were artist in residence.
Yeah, for the last 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
And you called your exhibition Traces.
Yes.
And I was wondering about this title because I think traces are looking backwards, but traces are also a trace is also a sketch or a quest. So that's looking forward in the future, maybe. Can you tell something about the title?
Yes. So what's the concept for the time here? I wanted to create something that is specific for this place, and that also includes like the surroundings, because in my work I'm trying to use paintings and drawings in combination, like in a room together. It's like a part of an installation, and I'm then inspired by and referencing like my surroundings a lot, or including things I've seen, and I wanted to do it here too. So I think I started with the first idea when it's like the basis, like with the school itself, because it used to be a school and it is pretty visible still, but now it's an artist space, and I really like that it's just the same building is reused in a different way, and wanted to use that idea to maybe have like a fictional scenario, like a narrative that going into the future or into like a parallel time, something like this, of having another version of how this building could be used or will be used, inhabited by something, and that it would be interesting to have something that's maybe non-human, so maybe something insect-like, and how they, what would be created or what traces would be left, and that's the idea where this is coming from. So in the space upstairs, I think I started with the sculptures, and then from there I was also thinking about how would something that might live inside these sculptures or come out of it, how would it move, and how would it maybe through moving or building also shape the surroundings. And from there I made the prints and the drawing in the room downstairs, and kind of set this up as like this fictional observation room of looking or observing the movements of something, the traces that are left behind of something here in this building, in this area.
You just said you like the past of the building, like the school. Did you use the children who left the building, maybe, or did you focus on the animals?
More on the animals. More was the looking forward, and was more the idea of having the building that was used for something like as a school, or the structures were meant to function as a school, but now used for something completely different. This idea of like the same room can be something else entirely.
Yeah. So something completely different. I was wondering, why did you choose for a residency here in Bierum during your first year at the Frank Moore Institute?
I visited the school here, and then I saw that part of the residency is obviously that you can create something in the space, so specifically for the space upstairs. I think that was very inspiring, because it's like the wooden beams and the structure itself that already says a lot, or there's a lot of atmosphere, I think. And at this part in my work, I wanted to create something site-specific that worked with the space, and then to be able to work with the space. It's like not a white cube, but has its own atmosphere, its own history. Is very. It was challenging, but also like a very nice thing to work with, or to have the opportunity to create something for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was thinking the FME study is like a residence.
Yeah.
So I was thinking you have a residence in a residence. So yeah. Yeah. So you're interested in architecture, you told me already before. There isn't much in Bierum. So on what did you focus here?
I did try to look at the surroundings and also to look for like architectural structures, because I'm mostly was interested in like industrial architecture, something architecture outside of like the houses, something that is built for for other purposes than living in it. And I did find something, and I was also thought it was like the fields, the empty fields were also, that there was no architecture in this part was also very interesting. It's also something I try to use then as a reference.
So, and what did you use then? I mean, with the lack of architecture and the...
I had in the downstairs room the panorama I draw. That was inspired by the view I had outside of the window upstairs. So every time I woke up in the morning, looked outside the window, there was like the field and the sky, so only like two planes visible. And that was an image I thought about how I could use that or reference that. And I think in the very long drawing of not being able to see it in one view, but having to move the head around, and just this feeling of seeing this empty field, this horizon with not much in between. I wanted to use that for the drawing.
Where does your need to create new spaces come from?
I think it's also the interest in how, in general, spaces are built, and how we then move around in it, and how that changes. That's why I think it's always interesting to be able to have an exhibition space and change it in some way to direct how visitors can walk and behave in it. It is, I think, something that I like to also observe. It happens, so trying to create a space in a space and then see how that functions, how that changes maybe the perspective on drawings also.
So how did you move in the Bierumer School, in the space?
I did try to work with the idea of creating the whole, like, different works that belong together. So I did try to make a plan first, what I wanted in the different spaces and how I thought they would respond to each other. And then also downstairs, it was interesting then doing the setting up to try out how that works. Like, where does the screens stand? I think it changed a lot. They first were in the middle of the room, and then I moved them to the one front, and for me there was a different association just in moving them in this line and just having like looks a bit like a control central observation station, I think, and also trying out with the chairs and placing them in front of the drawings to just seeing if it gives like a different direction to look at it, or hoping maybe an invitation to sit down and just see the work. Then also the windows. That was, I think, the first thing I tried to place with the panorama drawing. And it's also being able to look inside the windows, and maybe still seeing something that was inspired by the panorama, just as I was looking outside through a window to the outside, looking through another window into the inside, and just playing with this a little.
Yeah. Yes, because now you're looking outside with your back to the window, you mean? Or
Yeah, and also maybe if you're still outside, you can look through the windows, and then it's the direct view of seeing like, the same.
In the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you create new spaces for yourself, or do you create new spaces for the audience?
I think it's both. So it's first, I think sometimes a bit like what I was thinking about was setting up something like a movie or a film set. That is like the situation is set up and then you can move around in it. So it's like moving through a narrative is something that I find really interesting. But then it's there's always the part of when there's an audience or a visitor walking through that makes it different. So then to have the input on how it looks, I think that's a very important part.
I have to recognize my own handwriting now. Yeah. So you want to see the world through the eye of an animal, maybe? How do you feel about this environment in Bierumer, which is, I think, fully made by man?
Yeah, that's what I think is interesting in like creating like a fictional scenario, maybe also like a futuristic scenario of taking something that is like that you're very used to seeing, like the houses and in general like the landscape being shaped by people, by humans, and thinking about if that was not the case, how would it maybe look, or what would change if this something else building and maybe using structures or the surroundings to do so. So that was, I think, an idea that through working this I was thinking about this. How it would look.
Let me see if I have any more questions. Yeah, I'm just thinking now because a hot topic in Netherlands, but maybe also in Germany, I don't know, is that the government wants to get rid of a number of farmers, and then what to do with the land. And people are worried, okay, maybe they build houses, maybe they build factories on the land, but maybe it's also given back to nature. Isn't that an exciting idea for you?
Yeah, I think that is always very interesting because I started also with the interest in industrial architecture of seeing like abandoned architecture was taken over by nature, so it just was left, and then now there's things growing over it and also insects coming back and just reusing the space. So that idea, I think, is always very interesting and also important to think about, to maybe going back to something that is more natural.
Yeah. Well, I just had a nice observation upstairs in the attic, I think. Maybe you saw it too. Maybe you all saw it. I heard the squeaky sound of the wood of the attic, you know, and I really liked the. I never heard it before, and I come here for several years, and now I heard it in combination with the cocoon-like shapes, and I think that was very nice. So I wanted to share my observation with you. Are there any questions? Maybe you're having thoughts for yourself. Maybe you want to ask Annika something. Maybe you want to correct me. Maybe. Maybe you want to say. Maybe you want to add something.
I have one question. When you're gonna come back at school, are you gonna follow up on what you've been doing, or are you just gonna move on to something new?
I think this was like an important step of what I've been doing, because so far I've been focusing on just creating individual things, and to be able to create things to create a whole space and to combine a lot of things is, I think, was very important and like a good step. So I would want to continue that, to just maybe not with the same images or techniques, but the idea of combining different things and just placing them and thinking about how also different media reacts to each other. This I want to continue.
Yeah, the cocoons were much better in that space than at school.
Yeah.
Also, because they were hanging this time, it was way more strong than before.
Yeah.
Good job for you.
Thank you.
So it's a good choice to come to the Bierumer School.
Yeah, I think it was very inspiring, or it influenced a lot. Like what I've been trying out before, to realize it here, I think was like a next step, or to do.
I have another question. Like when you worked with the children as well, I don't know, but I saw the pictures on the social that the children kind of reproduced your research, and what was the final thought about that? Is it like strange to see your hands on someone else's hand, let's say? Or
I think it was a really nice project to have the theme, or the thing I've been thinking about like the past weeks, just how having them in a class of children, seeing how they respond to it and what they made out of it.
Yeah.
I think it's also like because when I'm working, I was very inside of the work and concentrating on the details, and to think about maybe breaking it down to something that children also can really, or like a simpler concept, I think was also a very nice way to think about what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, any more? Okay. Then we're done. Thank you very much, Annika.
Thank you all for coming.